Hi, and welcome to today's webinar from Linköping University. Today we're going to focus on material science. I'm Carina Skärberg, working at International Student Recruitment, and with me today I have two representatives from the program, and they will introduce themselves shortly. First of all, some practicalities. The first part will be recorded and will be available on YouTube and streaming services. We will then focus on the program, its content, relevancy and aim, for example. And secondly, there will be a live Q&A session for those attending live. And please wait till then to put your questions in the questions box. So once again, lovely to have you with us. So, Emma and Sanath, maybe you would like to introduce yourself. Emma, could you start, please?
Yes, thank you. My name is Emma Björk and I'm an associate professor here at the university. I work in a group called Nanostructured Materials at the Department of Physics, Chemistry and Biology. I have a physics background myself and a master in material physics. And now I'm working in material science, designing nanoporous materials that can be used for drug delivery and also for electrocatalysis and sensing, water splitting and recombination, carbon dioxide utilization and stuff like that.
Exciting. And Sanath?
Yes, I am Sanath Kumar. I am a PhD student in the Thin Film Physics division in the Department of Physics, Chemistry and Biology. I have a master's in physics and I work on low temperature processes for cutting tools and machining tools productions at LIU. Yeah.
Exciting. So we have a material science program. What is the aim of the program, Emma?
Well, the aim is of course to educate material scientists, because material science, it's such a important field for our future. In order to create a sustainable environment and a sustainable future for us, we need to develop new materials. It can be finding replacements for oil and gasoline, but it can also be carbon utilization, carbon capture, and very many different parts of our society, as Sanath mentioned, cutting tools and enabling new technology to develop.
Yeah. So, what would you say set our program apart from other similar programs?
Well, first of all, I would like to mention that the material science research at Linköping University is very, very strong. It's really unique. And what differs our programs from others in Sweden is mainly that it's a 2-year program where you can spend 1 full year of doing your master thesis. So you can really be embedded in a research group, but you can also do an industrial master thesis together with a company related to the university.
And talking about the program, maybe we should have a look at the curriculum first. That would be interesting. And here we have it. So, Emma, could you give us an overview of the program, maybe?
Absolutely. So we are starting, the 2 first semester is made by mandatory courses. So you're starting quite broad with chemical bonding and nanotechnology. So you get a good fundamental, or you all have the same fundamental knowledge to go further into the material science. And then we also have this course, experimental physics, where you can do a lot of experiments. So you will learn different characterization techniques, and you will also get hands-on training on these different experiments then. During the second year, or second semester, you also have some theoretical courses like solid state physics and physical metallurgy, but you also do some project work. So you have advanced project work in applied physics, and then you also have the growth and characterization of nanomaterials, where you really get also a mixture of lab work and theoretical knowledge. And then during third semester, here you can choose yourself. so what you would like to do. So you can either continue taking courses. So if you're more interested in a theoretical path, then you can take quantum mechanics and computational physics, or you can also do some more practical courses, or you can go more towards chemistry, or you can start your master thesis already here. And then during the 4th semester, then of course all of you will do your master thesis. So you can choose during the 3rd semester either courses or projects, and in the 4th semester you will all do projects.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said also that there was some project work. Do we have any companies that you work with continuously, or what do we find in the region?
Yes, I mean there are several companies that we are working with. So we both have smaller spin-offs from our research groups, but we are also having collaborations with small medium enterprises and also larger companies in the region, all focused in material science. So often we have a research project where the industry asks a question or they have a problem that should be solved, and then we look at the fundamentals behind it.
Okay,
Yes.
that's exciting. So, if I understood you all right earlier, you also cooperate with Max Planck located in Lund?
Well, there's this synchrotron source called MAX4, which is a large research facility where you can do different types of experiments where you need to have high energy X-rays really. So then we can apply for time to go there and do experiments, and then usually you're there for 24 to 72 hours. You work those hours, and then you come home and you analyze your data. But we also have large research infrastructures at the universities. So we are hosting a big transmission electron microscopy center, and we also have the National Supercomputer Center, which is used by other universities, but it's hosted by us. Yeah. Yes.
So, coming to a typical week as a master's student. Yeah, could you maybe start and you continue, Sanna?
Yes, I mean, the weeks are of course different from week to week,
Yeah.
but in general, it's every day is 4 to 8 hours of scheduled time, and that can include lectures, seminars, lessons where you are doing more problem solving, and then of course labs. And labs can be both theoretical, where you are doing simulations, but it can also be that you are doing something in the lab. And most times are between 8 and 5 in the day, but you can also have lab time between 5 and 9.
Yeah, that is what I've heard from a lot of the engineering programs. Is that your opinion as well?
Yes, I usually teach
Yeah.
the master students in the labs, and usually it runs from 5 to 9 in the evening, and they are asked to prepare some questions and answers for that lab. So it's going to be full 4 hours.
During those labs, do they work in groups?
Yes, so usually they work 2 people in a group, so they work on one particular instrument and then they shift for another experiment in one lab. Yeah.
Yeah, so the workload, let's say at least 40 hours per week, definitely a full-time job. And you having a master's background quite recently, what would you say about going from bachelor's to master's and from master's to PhD studies?
Yes, so the workload increases, of course, and you will learn more advanced physics or more advanced experiments you will do. So you will spend more time in your work. So it's more responsibility, I would say, towards going from bachelor's to masters and one step further to PhD. So yeah.
And you've also moved to Sweden quite recently. Yeah. What would you say were the big changes for you coming here?
Yeah, so I'm from India, especially from the southern part of India, and the climate is quite warm. and it's humid. So the first thing was the cold here.
Yeah.
So I knew about it, but the experience is quite different than when you experience yourself. So that was the one thing, and I was more surprised that Sweden is more cashless. So
Yeah, that's
it's no need to take too much cash when you come initially. So if you have a card that works, then it's super good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talking about challenges, Emma, you have been teaching a lot of different engineering students over the years. Do you find any common challenges for them that they should overcome, or areas that you know are demanding going from bachelor level to master's?
Well, it's a lot about this taking your own responsibility, that no one will spoon feed you. You need to know which parts are mandatory, where you should be, where you should go, what you should do, and so on. So you are expected to be prepared when you come, and also to be present and listen. Yeah.
We talk often about being an active student.
Yes.
Yes. And that means that you have an ongoing discussion with your professor or the teacher, and we address each other by first name. That's the way we do it here. So we want our students to challenge our teachers and think new ideas, because that's why we are here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In the thesis project, maybe we should develop it a bit further. You said one could choose either a shorter version or a longer version. What would you say is the advantage of wanting to do a longer version?
Well, the main advantage is that you really get embedded in an environment. It can be a research group or it can be at a company, but as you're spending much longer period of time there, you will get to know them, you will know the habits, you will get into the field in a completely different way compared to when you do a shorter project. And that's of course good, both, I mean, if you do it in the research group and then you want to continue with PhD studies, then they know you very well. And also the research group around them knows you very well, so you will be well known at the department. And at the company, it can also be, if you do a good job, then you will have good recommendations for an industrial career later on. Of course, that's also valid if you do a good job for a shorter project. But you get more time to really go in depth in something if you do a longer one. Yeah. But the shorter ones are also very good. You can often find a very nice research question. If you're doing something experimental, we are training our students to, for example, do their own material synthesis or material characterization. So you should really not only be fed with data, you should really do the project yourself. You should be in the lab, you should sit by a computer, you should do all the work yourself.
Learning by mistake, not always be counting to be right the first time, or having the time to redo the lab maybe. So when we talk about the application, we talk about target students. We do this in English. What would you say about English?
Yeah, so it's a basic requirement, I would say, and you should be able to express yourself. So it's not only learning, it's also about expressing what you have learned. That's more important. So you should have at least that level of English to take this program.
Both orally and in writing,
Exactly.
not to forget. And also, I guess, being able to do presentations.
Exactly.
Because there are a lot of different exam modes here. I would say the classic one is to have a written exam. Could you say a few words about that, Emma, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, for most of the theoretical courses, we are doing written exams. And then it's usually a 4-hour or a 5-hour exam where you sit in a large room together with all the students and you take your exam. And the teacher will come once or twice and see if you have any questions. But we can also have examination in written reports. for example, if you have done a project, it can also be that you are presenting something at a seminar, or that you are doing smaller hand-in reports during a course time. Yeah. So it's a mixture.
Yep. And what would you say is the right background for the program when it comes to admission requirements?
Yes. The program is taken together, or most of the courses are taken together with students that are taking our program in applied physics or our master program in chemistry. So you can have a background in nanotechnology or material science, but it's good to have some physics as well. So of course a bachelor in physics or applied physics works very well, but you can also have a pure material science background or nanotechnology. We have also, the program is open for electrical engineering students as long as they have 30 credits of physics.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 30 credits is equal to 1 semester of full-time studies, just to give you a vague idea when you look at your own transcript of records. So 30 credits is equal to 1 semester of full-time studies. However, it is the admissions team that will look into your transcript and your diploma and do the actual assessment, so you don't need to worry too much about that. Is there any requirement or do I have any advantage if I have certain programming skills with me when I come here as a master's student?
Well, it's a good question.
Yeah.
We are not focusing so much on programming in this program, but of course, if you are interested in theoretical material science and modeling and so on, programming is very nice. I'm not an expert in which languages, but I know Python, for example, is very popular.
Okay. So that's good. So if we move on to student life, you are not just coming here being a student, you also have a life around your studies. And what was it like for you moving to Sweden and Linköping?
Yeah, so it was a new culture for me, because in India it's quite different, and initially it was tough to make friends because they come from different parts of the world and they have cultures, different habits, so it was quite tough. But as you move on in your courses, so you make more friends and get interested, and you also have lot of student associations or groups, so which organize more cultural events or sport events, and some trips as well to nearby attractions. So it's really good life, student life, and it's very easy to move around in the city. It's usually with the bike. And you have more concerts in Linköping, and it's easy to travel to other cities if you have any cultural programs going on in Sweden. So it's really nice to be here.
What do you do on your spare time?
Yeah, I usually travel a lot. I travel to within Sweden as well as in EU for that matter, and I usually listen to musics because I'm a PhD student. There will be a lot of research going on, so I need to relax a bit. So
totally natural.
Yeah, so that's what I do.
Yeah, you talked about making friends. When I get this question, I usually ask students to bring the interest with you that you already have. If you are into sports, theatre, journalism, whatever during your bachelor studies, then continue during your master studies as well. Even because it's a way both of meeting Swedish students, meeting other students, and also, as you said, relaxing kind of, I need to decompress. And especially, it would require a lot of energy, I think, during the first semester, because you're moving, a lot of you will be moving to a new country, new habits, new food, everything will be new, and it will require a lot of energy. So you also need to think about the things that gives you energy. And then I think your spare time interest is an excellent way of regaining both new friends and energy. So, is there something in particular that you would wish you had known before coming here?
Yeah, I would say about the accommodation.
Yeah.
Because you need to apply as you apply for the program. So the sooner you apply, so the better it is to get a chance for a good accommodation. But still, if you don't, you can come here, stay in a more temporary ones, and then it's much easier to find a better accommodation for a long haul. So, but it's good to start early. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to accommodation, the same applies to all university cities in Sweden. Apply early. In Linköping, you register online. It's totally free of charge. You gain queuing points, 1 point per day. So the longer you've been in the queue, the better are your chances of gaining access or actually getting a dorm room or a studio apartment when the landlords release the new rooms in mid-July. So even though you're not sure whether you actually think of moving here, do apply for registration, because this is what all the Swedish students do. So that's why in order for you to compete with them on getting a good accommodation, I mean, the majority of master students, they are moving around. They have a short-term solution, maybe a month or 2 months or 1 semester, and then they move to a final choice, which is better after a certain time and more to their liking. I know some master students, they prefer to rent together a larger apartment, so they are maybe 3-4 master students living in a villa or in a large apartment, sharing the cost and also having some social life. I know that's quite usual because everybody is looking for a small studio. So the availability of larger apartments is much better, actually. So when it comes to also students' associations, we have the European Student Network and the International Student Associations. Both of them are very active here in Linköping, and especially in August and September, they organize a lot of activities so that you can meet new people and get to know each other. We think it's really important that you make friends here, and the large majority of the students coming here are moving into the region. So everybody is looking for new friends. That's actually true. And we are, as you said, quite close. We are about 1.5 hours from Stockholm. We are about 3 hours from Copenhagen, if you wish to go down to Denmark. You can fly here. If you fly via KLM, via Amsterdam, or you take the train from Southern Europe. So, I think that's all for this part, actually. So I should say thank you to those of you who've been watching this recording. And of course, if you have any further questions, you can go to the program homepage and send us a question there via the Contact Us form. Or you choose to listen to our podcast, Fika with Us, to know more about student life. You can follow us on Instagram as well. So there are many ways to get to know more, and don't hesitate to get in touch with us. I hope you have enjoyed this so far, and now we will go over to the live Q&A session. Thanks again for watching.